This is this is Psalm 78, and let's take it from 49. It says, "He cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, and indignation and trouble by sending evil angels among them. He made a way to his anger. He spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence." I'd like to start off by saying, Barak Atah Yahweh, Barak Atah Yahweh Shai, Kol Elohim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bahakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect that scattered abroad, the Akim and the Akwat that's listening in. How is our Lord willing that the lesson is edifying. It's the brother Shawab Amwan back at you with another lesson. And going into the title, all right, the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave to thee. All right, and I'm going to read Psalm 78 and 49 again. All right, and basically, when you go into this chapter, it talks to you, it tells you about what happened in the time of the wilderness, all right, when our people, had just escaped from Egypt, all right, and basically the Lord, was bringing, uh, evil angels amongst our people, you see, especially from them being, mocking the Heavenly Father, all right, and, being disrespectful to the Lord because the Lord was doing miracles and our people were still, tempting the Lord. They were out there trying to mock the Lord. Okay. So, that chapter breaks that down. Right. And the one part going back to 49, one thing that the Lord did, he cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, and indignation and trouble by sending evil angels among them. All right. Basically, them death angels. Okay. It says he made a way to his anger. He spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence. All right. Pestilence is the key word. All right. And what's pestilence? All right, we know exactly what pestilence is, but you never know if there's somebody new. All right, pestilence, all right, goes into a fatal epidemic disease, all right, especially bubonic plague. So it's like a bubonic plague, basically a plague that brings sickness upon people, all right. And what you see right now being spoken of, all right, which I'm about to play that right now. I got 3 little videos I got saved up from Instagram. All right, you have this hantavirus outbreak. Okay, so let's hear what they got to say real quick.
Virus is already in the United States, folks. According to numerous articles and sources, 23 people were able to disembark that ship on April 23rd, going to numerous different countries like the United States, Taiwan, and, quote, all corners of the world, potentially spreading this virus. Remember, it has an 8-week incubation period. These people had no idea they were exposed to this virus, but nonetheless, they were able to get off that ship and go to God knows where, all across the world. They're tracking them as we...
Hold on. I didn't hear it. This damn sound in the background. Salakia. There you go.
But that's going to be extremely difficult. But please, for the love of God, practice what we did during COVID. 6 feet apart, wear a mask, wash your hands, hand sanitizer at all times. Fortunately, this virus, the person-to-person strain known as the Andes strain, doesn't spread as easily as like the flu or COVID. But regardless, its mortality rate is 40% on average, up to 55 to 60% in people who are autoimmune compromised or have pre-existing conditions. This virus affects the lungs and kidneys. So please, again, practice social distancing like we did. I know it sounds silly to some of you, but that shit did work. Masks do work. They don't help you from getting sick, but they help you from spreading it. So please watch out for your fellow person, watch out for your neighbors, watch out for your family, because that's where it spreads the most, is people who live in close quarters through bodily fluids like saliva, mucus when you cough, sneeze, and kiss. Again, 23 people disembarked that ship April 23rd, not even a month ago, and one of them is already sick in countries like Taiwan or the United States. I'll keep you updated. Please, for the love of God, wash your fucking hands. The virus is already in the United States, folks.
So basically, going into anybody that got HIV, AIDS, anybody that has immune deficiencies, basically, you know, their bodies are weak, all right, they're pretty much going to be over with if they catch this virus, which at the end of the day, we know these damn devils always use every year a new virus, you know, to bring fear upon people. All right, a virus is a virus. You got to let it take its course. You know, you could be just normally with a normal virus that, you know, is almost like a flu, and they're gonna look at you and tell you that it's a damn hantavirus. He's gonna tell you it's the world's worst virus ever, you know. So plus we have what a coincidence, in the midst of us having a late pollen season, all right, because pollen is literally dropping like crazy right now. All of a sudden, it didn't drop the whole beginning of the spring, but now all of a sudden it's everywhere. So it's coming in late, okay? Because we had a crazy winter, and everything was pretty much pushed back. Now pollen season is coming a little late, so a lot of people are just going to be sick with allergies, man. All right, and they'll always tell you that the symptoms of allergies are the symptoms of all these different variants that they, you know, try to push out there. All right. So, man, if you're sick, man, don't take yourself to the doctor. Don't take yourself to the hospital. All right. Just sit your ass at home. All right. Make some ginger tea, lemon. All right. Some ginger, lemon, clove, and honey tea, you know, and you'll be all right. You know, just let it pass. Drink a lot of water. Okay. But those that are wicked as hell, the Lord going to have them fall into the hands of a physician. All right, let's grab that. This is Ecclesiasticus 38, and let's take it from 2. It says, "For of the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the King." All right, so healing comes from Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. It doesn't come from no hospital. It doesn't come from these doctors. All right, the Lord said in Job that they are physicians of no value, man. All right, they are forgers of lies. They are physicians of no value. So you can never trust any of these hospitals and any of these doctors, because they all go back to being, you know, warlocks and witches. All right, and all they have for you is a bunch of pharmakia, which pharmakia goes into witchcraft and sorceries. All right, basically the mixing of potions. That's why when you get sick, the first thing they'll try to do is just try to prescribe you something. All right, and then they give you these medications and they cure one thing, but they affect another. All right, I was just recently, I went through, I got poison ivy, poison oak, sumac, all at the same damn time, basically. All right, and here it is. They gave me, I actually needed the prescription because it had spread out so bad to my face and everything. But here it was. I was taking the medication and it was healing me up, but it was actually affecting my mouth. It was making all my teeth loose as hell. And by the time I was done with that medication, I had wiggly ass teeth, yo. Like I was literally wiggling them. So that just goes to show you that these devils will prescribe you something and they'll heal one thing but affect another thing. So that's why you don't want to ever really deal with medications. All right. And that's damn sure why you don't want to fall into the hands of these doctors. All right. Which it tells you right here. Let me drop down 15. It says, he that sinneth before his maker, let him fall into the hand of the physician. All right. You see, and the true physician is Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right. But, you know, you sin before your maker, man, the Lord might give you, you know, have pestilence cleave to you, have sickness come upon you. All right. Usually when you're sick and you're given infirmities, that ain't nothing but just demons on top of you. All right. And basically it's the Lord trying to get your attention. You know, it could be something that you're paying for and the Lord just put, you know, pestilence on you. But, you know, is the way I look at it, when we get sick, it's a warning to examine yourself, you know, and it's the Lord getting your attention to cleave onto him even more, because it tells you right here above 9, it says, my son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord Yahweh Shai, and he will make thee whole. You see, leave off from your sin and order thine hands aright and cleanse thy heart from all wickedness. You see, so usually the Lord will put that, you know, pestilence on you. All right, when you're doing wickedly. All right, when you're doing something wrong to get your attention. You know, if you're of the elect, he's doing it to get your attention. If you just a wicked ass nigga, 2/3 of the world, the Lord's just literally hitting you with pestilence, which that's a curse upon our people. Let's grab that. This is Deuteronomy 28. All right, and let's grab it from 1 second. This is 21, and it says, yeah, let's take it actually from 20. It says, the Lord Yahweh shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, you see, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he has consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. All right. It says, the Lord shall smite thee with a consumption and with a fever and with an inflammation and with an extreme burning and with the sword and with blasting and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. You see, so the Lord would definitely, you know, smack you with sickness, man. And as a matter of fact, the prophets of old have always spoken about these things, man. All right, and we warn you over and over to get right with the Lord, or these things will come upon you. Okay, this is Jeremiah. All right, 28 and 8, and it reads, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old, both against many and before thee of old prophesied, both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. You see, the prophet which prophesied the peace, when the word of the prophet, meaning the true prophet, shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah has sent them. You see, so, you know, a real prophet is going to tell you, listen, man, if you don't get right, the Lord going to bring war, evil, pestilence upon this place, man, and you're going to be consumed in it. All right. But the prophet that's prophesying of peace, telling you that the Lord doesn't do no evil, telling you the Lord is all good, that nothing bad comes out of the Lord. See, that's a lie. That's why when the true word of the prophet comes to pass, when these things happen, all right, you're going to know that a prophet have been among you. You see? So let's grab another video real quick.
The hantavirus plaguing the cruise ship has now also spread to France. So a French person who never set foot on this cruise ship has now tested positive for this Andes virus, which is the substrain of the hantavirus that can spread from person to person. They contracted it from the passenger who died that was on the plane. And if you remember what I've said on previous videos is that they are now tracking everybody on that plane that rode with the victim who passed away. Now, previously, investigators had been using a theory that the elderly couple had been bird watching in Argentina and they picked it up and brought it back to the ship. If you remember, I said on my last video as well that there was a Swiss man who was on this ship a month prior to all of this. He is now home. He recently got an email from the cruise ship line, tested positive for this Andes virus. No word yet on his wife's status. Remember, this virus can lay dormant for up to 8 weeks. It has a 40% mortality rate, which is 4 out of 10 people, and it is spread by respiratory droplets. This ship is headed to the Canary Islands where they're going to dock at Tenerife. The local officials are trying to push back, but ultimately the Prime Minister of Spain is saying that they are going to allow them to dock. They're going to quarantine all of the Spaniards at a military hospital, and then the rest of the people will go immediately back to their own countries instead of quarantining in place. No word yet if they're going to be quarantined when they get back to their countries. I would hope so.
So between those two videos, you can see that they're going to try to push the same agenda that they pushed in 2020, 6 feet distance, going back to mandating these masks. I don't know how much that's really going to work. All right. But they're going to use this and run with it. All right. Which is another form, another tactic of them being able to shut down this place, bring in martial law. Remember, they got so many different ways and tactics to bring in martial law. All right. And this is one of them that they can use very much. All right, here it is. We're in the midst of war. So America's already on high alert. Now you got people still going, vacationing, people going to different parts of the world, and they're using that against them, basically, man. Okay? Because I highly doubt it was from Argentina. All right, they just pick and choose places, man. And honestly, they probably used Argentina because when you go into Argentina, that's our people. All right, that goes into the tribe of Asher. All right. Here it is. Then in South America, there's a bunch of war going on out there. So who the fuck is really going out to these places, But leave it up to Esau. He'll find a way to take advantage. All right. That's why we're not ignorant to his devices. All right. His actual physical devices, computer devices, and devices as in schemes that this devil has. Okay. He'll try to find ways to scheme things out. Give me 1 second real quick. Slovakia. Right. So, be mindful of these things, man. Like I said, you see people sick, stay away from them so you don't get sick yourself. Because this is sick season. All right. Pollen is all over the place right now. So people going to be getting allergies and sniffling and sneezing, and you can't even sneeze around people nowadays without the ooh, you got something, So, and damn sure, like I just read, don't take yourself to no hospitals, man. All right. Those are physicians of no value. They are forgers of lies. All right. All healing comes of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. All right. And as the scripture said, he that sinneth before his maker, let him fall into the hands of a physician. So, if you get sick, man, examine yourself. That's all. Examine yourself. Pray unto Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. He will make thee whole again, as we just read in Ecclesiastes, the 38th chapter. Okay. It may very well be, the Lord just bringing chastisement on you, or, is the Lord trying to get your attention for something that you did, But let's grab another quick video, and then I'll grab these precepts and close out. All right, this is the last one.
New information out of South Africa. Authorities there confirming the Andes strain of the virus has been identified in 2 passengers, and it is the only known strain to transmit person to person. I hear all that, and it's natural, especially in light of our recent history, to think, is this another pandemic?
Officials have confirmed that the hantavirus that is aboard that ship in the sea is the Andes variant, which means that this deadly virus that has a 40% mortality rate is transmissible person to person. This has been confirmed today, May 6, 2026. Let's go ahead and take a look at the latest headlines so that way you can see it for yourself. Who confirms the dangerous Andes variant in the cruise ship outbreak? LUMC prepares for patients. 2 individuals aboard the cruise ship Hondias tested positive for the hantavirus and were carrying the Andes variant, according to South Africa's health authorities. Officials noted that unlike many other strains, this version of the virus can spread between people when they are in close proximity. Here's another one, hantavirus outbreaks.
And one thing I want to tell y'all is, please, man, don't be getting, if y'all feel sick, please don't be taking these tests that these devils be trying to give you. All right, just like back in the time of C19, they were giving C19 tests, you know, swabs on your nose, swab on your throat. Don't do that shit, because that shit actually carries those sicknesses on there, and then that's why most of these people that take those things, they end up testing positive for it, man. All right, it's just a way to put it on them for real, because like I said, man, when you get sick and you got a virus could just be a regular flu. Most of the time it is a regular flu, and all you got to do is just let it take its course, you know, let it, you know, take its course, and it'll go away eventually. All you got to do is just keep yourself away from anybody, you know, wash your hands all the time, you know, drink a lot of ginger, lemon, honey, and cloves together. You know, that keeps you all good. All right. Matter of fact, a good thing to have is soursop. All right. That's why you should be taking soursop. You should be taking sea moss. You know, if anybody ever need any of that, you know, DM me. I could get my hands on that. I could get my hands on soursop leaves. I could get my hands on sea moss. You know, I give a nice little, I give a nice little chunk for, you know, decent amount for a good price, affordable price. You know, it'll make you about 2 jars worth. 2 jars could last you about a month and a half. You know, you got to just freeze 1 jar and then put it in like a plastic, not in a glass jar, because it'll break in the freezer. But you put it in, and then when you're ready to take it out, the second one, you bring it out and let it thaw out. But soursop leaves, you know, you make tea with that. Soursop leaves, you can use it 3-4 times in a row, you know, consecutive days, and it'll still be good. All right. And sea moss, you know, something that we should be putting part of our diet. You know, depending how you make it, you can't put too much in a blender, because then it'll be too potent, and it can get you, you know, sick. Not sick, but it'll make you go to the bathroom a lot. All right. But if you put just a handful in the blender, and then the rest with fruits, mad fruits, different types of fruits, then you could take 2 teaspoons twice a day, and you'll be all right. You know, you keep your immune system real good, you know. So the Lord gave us these herbs to keep us healed, man, to keep us, you know, away from sickness and things like that. All right. So let's finish this.
Complicated public health situation. And here's another headline, and you can see these all coming out today, May 6th, with the breaking news that this has now been confirmed. The hantavirus Andes variant warning signs as who confirms deadly person-to-person strain on the cruise ship. 3 people have died so far after the virus outbreak on the MV Hondias cruise ship. We're hearing that this is the variant that does travel person-to-person, which is what we're hearing health experts were afraid of, which means that with an incubation period of 8 weeks, these people are going to need to be quarantined, and they're saying they don't want them to come into port for the next 2 months, because they could be infected with it right now and not even know it for a month or 2 months from now. So they are stuck out at sea.
You see how Esau says shit? You know, oh, you might be walking around with it and you don't even know it, and they'll show up 2 months later. Like, what kind of fucking virus is that, man? when you're sick, you're sick. You're gonna get sick. You catch something 2 days tops, that shit's gonna be showing 3 days. There's no such thing as I've been walking around for 2 months with it, and then 2 months later, all of a sudden I'm sick. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't fall for the trap of them telling you to damn sure don't get no yo jabba jabbas. You know what I'm saying? You know, definitely don't be taking no tests or nothing like that, man. Stay away from all of that. And just stay prayed up, man, first and foremost. That's always the one thing that we have to do is stay prayed up. Okay? But let's grab some of these scriptures and I'll close out. This is Deuteronomy. All right, Deuteronomy 28, and let's take it from 1 second. I'm looking for a particular one. This is 59. It says, let's take it from 58. It says, if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord Yahweh thy power, then the Lord Yahweh will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance. You see? So here it is. They talking about if you get infected, you're going to have to quarantine for 8 weeks. You know, that's 2 months. Okay, that's of long continuance. And as a matter of fact, you hear all the time people talking about online on social media, Instagram, oh man, I just got over a sickness. That shit was kicking my ass. I had it for like 3 months. Yeah, see, that's of long continuance, man. And even longer if you end up in the hospital with respirators, you know, with all types of shit attached to your body. You see, you got people that die of, you know, our people die in hospitals every damn day. Okay. And again, you end up in the hands of a physician. He might cure you with one thing to harm another, you know, to basically, you know, keep you in the loophole of being, you know, in the hospital, man. All right. And they love doing that because that's how they get paid. The more days you stay in the hospital, the more they're getting paid, man. All right. So going back to 59, the Lord Yahweh thy power will make thy wonderful plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou was afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. You see? So you're going to have those same type of plagues that were brought in the time of Egypt. They're going to be brought back in these days, man. Okay. Showing you reincarnation, man. All right. It says also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, then will the Lord Yahweh bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. You see, and that's pretty much why you see a lot of these, you know, every year you hear about 2-3 new variants, man, because those are new diseases, all right, that are not even written in this book, all right, and most of these diseases are man-made, man, all right, your government makes these things. You got Bill Gates out there dropping fucking, what was that, maybe like 2 years back, he dropped a bunch of, mosquitoes. They were like drone-made mosquitoes, man-made mosquitoes, and they were pricking people with viruses and shit like that. All right, that's what Esau do. He has the technology to do that. He'll come by with them chemtrails, all right, spraying, you know, aluminum, barium, all right, and on top of that, spraying all types of sickness into the earth. Because anything that's shot up in the clouds, man, eventually comes down and it settles down on the earth. You see, down to our ground level. Okay, so we're breathing that shit in on a daily basis, man. You know, we got our foods that are making our immune systems weaker, you know. And then with that being said, right, that's what they said earlier, that's what I said earlier in the video, man. Anybody that has a weak immune system, you're going to be prone to catching this like that, all right? And it could turn out in a bad manner if you don't have the proper care, okay? which, you know, again, this is pretty much why you want to be in your dietary laws, and you want to be constantly feeding yourselves herbs, man, because herbs keeps you away from sickness. Okay, eating the portion of the king's meat, eating this garbage that they have out here in America, man, that shit will get you sick within itself. Okay, a lot of it's 3D printed meat, a lot of it's fucking DNA, human DNA in it. All of that shit is made to make you sick and then lower your immune system. All right. And now you operating on a low frequency. So, you know, these pestilences, these sicknesses will cleave to you quicker. Okay. And especially in the time that the Lord is bringing judgment, man. All right. This is another depopulation tactic they have. All right. To get a bunch of people inoculated. All right. And basically, you know, by you taking that, you know, eventually you'll pass away, man. Okay. And like I said, it's going to be a rerun of 2020. Keep your distance, 6 feet apart, mask mandates, people acting stupid and weird now all of a sudden, because now people's like, you're like a vampire to them. So they're like, they trying to keep away from your ass, like, and you looking at them stupid as hell, like, bro, you'll be all right. Okay. Yeah, usually I be fucking with people when they be on some 3 masks and stay away from me. I be trying, come here and give me a hug. You know, but all right, the Lord is bringing pestilence upon this place, man. The Lord is bringing, you know, great death, great, you know, destruction, and that's one of the ways he brings it. All right, let me grab this. This is 2nd Ezra 15:5, and it says, behold, saith the Lord Yahweh, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. All right. And the plagues go into, you know, these different types of sicknesses. All right. For wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Yeah. Wickedness, man. Like we just read in Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, when you're doing wickedness, man, the Lord makes the pestilence cleave onto you. You see, it says, therefore saith the Lord Yahushua, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. And therefore, saith the Lord Yahushua, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all innocent blood from among them. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them to dwell in the land of Egypt, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and would destroy all the land thereof. You see, so those same plagues that were brought in the time of Egypt, all right, they're going to come back in these last days. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and the punishment that the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua shall bring upon it. Okay, you see, so this is why we have to be mindful. It's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power on the left-hand side, man. The Lord could bring any of these calamities upon you, man. All right. Whether it be just a great death, you know, whether it be sickness, okay, blindness, madness, all right. The Lord could get at you so many different ways. This is why you have to fear the Heavenly Father, all right? So, you know, that's pretty much the point. Just wanted to land back on that, you know, a little rerun they're trying to bring back from 2020, okay? And we just have to be prepared, stay away from, you know, people coughing and sneezing, all right? Best thing for us, you know, it's not saying you can't go outside, all right, but try to keep yourself inside the house, because these devils are spraying a lot of shit in the air, and then, you know, pollen is very heavy right now, all right, and with the chemicals that's also mixing with the pollen, it makes things even, you know, harder for you, man, all right, and you don't want to just be cooped up in your house neither, because you want to be able to smell the air, you want to get used to, you want your body to get used to that shit, so your body's not, you know, when your body not used to and not breathing air outside, one little speck of that shit will have you sick as hell. You know, have you sitting there like, oh man, I'm not used to this. That's how your body gonna react. But if you go outside from time to time, you know, breathe that air and then come back inside, you know, you'll be all right. All right. And again, keep yourself teed up. All right. Sour sop, tea, lemon, ginger, cloves. All right. Honey, all of that is good for you. All right, and it keeps you away from sickness. And honestly, one thing I make a lot in my house is soup. You know, if you know how to cook soups, Hey man, soup will definitely keep you from being sick, getting sick. All right, because those are herbs that are going into your body, on a normal basis. You can make yourself. I use summer sausage, which is it's beef sausage, and there's no casing around it. Because you got to be careful with the casings that they'll use on sausages. They'll make them shits out of pork. All right, but it's called beef summer sausage. All right, it's wrapped in a casing, but it's not even a casing. It's more like a wrap just to keep it preserved. It's not an actual casing collagen. All right, but that's straight beef. I make that. I put cilantro. Make my homemade sofrito with it. Chicken bouillon. That's all you pretty much need. A little bit of salt, some pepper, a little bit of hot sauce in it. That shit is good for you. If you catch a stuffy nose, it cleans your nose out, man, because of the hot sauce in there. The spices of the soup. All right, you eat some of that, your nose will be dripping. And you just, one thing I always see a lot of people do that when they get stuffy noses, they're always like, sucking it in. Unless you're in a spot where you can't get to a tissue, is different. But you don't want to be sucking that shit in, man. You got to be blowing your nose. Even if you got to blow your nose 100 times, man, blow it out, because you don't want it in your body. You got to keep blowing that shit out to get it out of your system. You know what I'm saying? Different types of soups. Like I said, the beef summer sausage is one. I make one that's chicken and rice, with cilantro and red peppers. Going into that sofrito, the chicken bouillon again, that's a good one. And there's another one I make. What is it? Chicken noodle soup. All these shits from scratch, man. These things will keep you from getting sick. And it's good. It's more for the winter time, but I do that shit year round, man, because it helps me. My body different. Everybody body different. So stay prayed up. And everything will be all right, man. Don't worry about what these pestilences they're talking about, because us doing the will of the Lord going to keep us and preserve us from pestilence. So we don't have nothing to worry about. All right. So I'm going to leave it there through the Spirit, Lord willing, that you will edify. So with that being said, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Call Elohim La Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bahakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who do well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect that scattered abroad. The Akim and the Akwat that was listening in. Yahweh Rapaz, our Lord willing that the lesson was edifying. To the next one, Shalom. Keep fighting the good fight of faith and doing as good soldiers of Yahweh Shai. You sisters continue to learn the silence, watching true men of the Lord. Like I said, stay prayed up. Keep throwing them prayers up that this place be destroyed with a speedy riddance, a Bible ball real soon. Shalom.